morning everybody, Calm Biker here, and it's about 6:20 on a Saturday morning. I know that because I just checked the time on the receipt for the 5 litres, oh yeah, 5 whole litres, that's bright isn't it, of petrol I just bought from Sainsbury's. And that's an important thing for me today, is the receipts. I'm with Tosh Twentythree, who is about to pull alongside me and wave, I would imagine. And we are setting off on an iron butt saddle saw 1000 ride. Essentially we are going to ride 1000 miles in under 24 hours. Oh well, we're going to try our hardest to do that anyway. We're actually going to aim for a route that is 1101 miles long. That was just luck, it wasn't an aim to get all those ones, but the rules are, because this is a proper organised thing with the Iron Butt Association, and they will check our ride and not let me be a member, not let me join the association if I don't do it in full. Tosh is already a member. What?
I just got comfy. I went to stop for a red light.
Where was I? Oh yeah. They will check the ride, so we have to collect receipts. The first one had to be photographed with the odometer reading in the background, which at the minute is 17,326. It's not a few miles, this bike. But they will check the receipts, which all have to have a date and time on to prove when you got them, and all have to have the details of where you are on them. So in this case it says Sainsbury's in Hull on it. Hopefully there's only one Sainsbury's in Hull, but that will mean that they can see where you are and when you were there, and then they do a dot-to-dot picture on the map. I mean, they don't draw it, but they use navigation software to join those dots together in the order that you visited and make sure that the difference between all the receipts in time is no more than 24 hours, and that the shortest possible route between all of those locations was over 1000 miles. So we're doing over 1100 miles because the route we're taking is definitely not the shortest route. For example, part of it will go around the M25, which is a big roundabout, where we could cut through the middle of London, but that would be very silly because it would take longer. So that will cost us a few miles on our journey when they do a straight line through London and we have gone round a bit. And hopefully it all comes out on the shortest route on whatever software they're using to more than 1000, and then I can join and I can buy a nice badge for my overalls. That's about it really. So there's not a huge amount of point to it, it's just a bit of a challenge, a bit of fun. See if the bike is good enough to do 1000 miles, I'm sure it is. See if I can do 1000 miles, I'm not sure whether that's true or not. Well, just something to do on a weekend, isn't it? So let's see how we get on. I haven't got, even I with my 6 batteries have not got enough juice to record it all, and a 24-hour video will probably take a while to upload anyway, so I'm going to be turning the camera off for most of the time. So I've got my remote control down there, I don't normally have it with me, but I'm going to be turning the camera off for most of the time and just turning it on when I've got something to say or something to look at. There should be a few things for us to look at. We are heading up, well, we're going down the M62 first. We're going to stop at the services in only 30 miles to get a receipt before we start heading north, because at the minute we're heading west. And then we're going to have a look at the brick train that I've never seen before. Hopefully I'll get a picture of that to put in this video. The Angel of the North. We're heading up the east coast all the way up to Scotland, and then across towards Glasgow where we'll see the Kelpies. We're then going to head south down the west coast Going to go to Blackpool and have a look at the Blackpool Tower. Carry on down south to go and look at the Willow Man at Bridgewater, if it's still there. I know that it once burnt down and they rebuilt it, and then birds were stealing parts of it to make nests with, so I don't know how much of it's still there. And I'll take us to kind of the southwest of the country after being to the north of the country, and well, actually out of the country into Scotland. From there we're going to head east and go past Stonehenge, which I've never seen before. I was supposed to be seeing it a few years ago on the way back from my off-road course, but then I went and broke my shoulder. Going to carry on east to the outskirts of London, to the M25, where we're going to stop for petrol at a Tesco that's in the old Brooklyn circuit, in the banked corner. So hopefully I'll get a picture of that as well. And then the final landmark that we're going to see is after heading north for a few hundred miles to cross the Humber Bridge and back into Hull. At which point we're going to stop at a McDonald's for that final receipt. So that's our plan for the day. Let's see if I can do it. I've had about 7 hours sleep. That's the most I could manage because I was too excited. But that should keep me going for a good 14 or 15 hours today anyway. Hoping to average with stops about 50 miles an hour. So that 15 hours might get me 750 miles in, and then depending on how I feel, might have to have a quick sleep at the side of a road or in a services or something before carrying on and doing the last 250 miles. Safety is paramount on this, so if I get to the point where I feel I'm too tired to carry on, or Tosh does, we're just going to stop. Even if we're at 980 miles in, or actually 1080 miles in, we will just stop. Because it's not worth killing yourself just for a day out of riding. Right, well, I'm going to turn the camera off now, and I'll catch up with you in a little while. I'm now 11 miles in and slightly frustrated. 1% of the way and the first problem is happening. Nothing major, but I think my pinlock must have either got wet or isn't sealed fully against my visor. I've got a new visor in because my old visor broke. Just while I was riding, it just cracked and came apart, which wasn't a very good advertisement for Shark really. Though I did get another one sent out for free to replace it. Irritatingly, after I'd already bought a replacement because it happened while I was in the first day of a week-long road trip. So I've now got a spare. But maybe it's not seated properly in the new visor, but bloody pinlock's fogging up. I don't know. We're just coming up to turn off the motorway now, get into these ferry bridge services, as per the sign says there. Been on the road for about 35 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. And this is going to take us to about 35 miles. So the timing's good, but it's a very short stint because this is where we change direction and we need that receipt, as I said before. It's a bit of a weird one because when I filled up at Sainsbury's, I had to really squeeze in 5 litres to get the minimum delivery for the pump of 5 litres. They won't sell you any less than... Well, I mean, I suppose they'd have to if I put 4 litres in and said, well, I can't get any more in. What are they going to do? I don't know if you end up having to pay for that extra litre or not. But this bike, even on a motorway at the speeds we're doing, will easily be doing 65, 70 to the gallon. So I'll have been lucky to use... lucky. That'd be great because, generally speaking, it'd be great because I'm probably going to use 2 litres, maybe 2.5 litres of fuel. But here is a bit of a problem because if they've got a 5 litre minimum delivery, well, there's no way I'm going to fit 5 litres in. I might have to fill my tank and Tosh's just to do it. We'll see. Or I might just have to buy a Buy Tosh a Mars bar or something. So by the time we've finished that stop, it's now 8 minutes past 7. So almost 50 minutes on the road, and we've done about 40 miles. So getting this average of 50 miles an hour is actually going to be quite tricky. It's amazing how quickly that time disappears. But anyway, onto the A1M. I will turn off the camera again to preserve the battery and talk to you again shortly. This sign here demonstrates the problem. Well, maybe not this side. Oh yeah, it does, yeah. York at the right hand side. York is about 35 miles from my house, and from our starting point probably 45 miles if you use the same route, maybe even a little bit less. But we have done 66 miles? No, that's not right. 68 miles. So without that receipt to prove where we'd been in the midpoint so far, of course, not midpoint to the right, we're 440 miles away from that, or 490 because we're doing the 1100. But yeah, without that receipt we'd have done probably 23 miles more than we would actually be credited for. And on a 45-ish versus 65-ish, something like that, that's a big chunk to lose. You know, you're losing probably a third of the mileage, and then you'd have to do 1,500 to be sure. Now 80 miles in, and it's the first sight of cones. Now that might sound impressive to the British viewers, but to the non-British viewers you'll be thinking, well, that's 80 miles, some cones, what do you mean, what's the big deal? But to go 80 miles on a British motorway before you meet the cones is quite impressive. Usually it's a lot earlier than that, and we're under now average speed cameras. Not that this guy in this truck cares. So he might be getting a ticket through the post, this one, because he's doing at least 15 miles an hour over the average speed limit. Not the kind of risk you need to take if you're a trucker, I would imagine. While we're going a bit slower, take the opportunity to stretch the legs a bit. The bike's vanished. It's not a view you see every day, is it? The racing crouch at 50 miles an hour. I'm just about to hit a milestone. In a few seconds my mileometer, odometer, whatever you want to call it, is going to flick up one more mile. Come on, come on, there it is. So that's 101 miles completed, which means that if the routing is correct on Kalimoto, I've got exactly 1,000 miles left to ride.